going to call to order this regular meeting of the Miami Special Utility Authority for Tuesday, July 1st, 2014. Item number 2 is invocation by pastor of the Sacred Heart Catholic Church, Father Carl Kirkmeyer. I know I saw, there he is. I knew I saw you in the hall, Father.
Let us pray. As we prepare for the celebration of our country's independence, we give you thanks, Almighty God, for the privilege we have to live in this prosperous, powerful nation with its many capable, creative, caring people. May we all be willing to contribute our gifts which originate in you, especially the gifts present in the council members of the city of Miami, so that through their leadership this community may flourish and proclaim your magnificence in our thoughts, words, and deeds. We praise you for the freedoms we have received and many have fought to protect. May we exercise these liberties for the good of this community and mankind. God bless each one of us, and God bless America. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, recognition of 15-year service award for Mark Byfield.
No way.
Captain Anderson, are you presenting?
I am.
Okay.
Are we?
Council.
That wasn't on mine.
I'm on up there. Mark
Oh,
Byfield.
my. Well, I got ahead
Are you
of
on the city
myself.
council or
Yeah,
something?
I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
I was
You have to
gonna
wait
say,
just a little bit longer.
sorry.
I gave the chief time to sneak in. Okay.
I'm gonna say that ain't on mine.
We'll try this again. Item number 4, public input and unscheduled personal appearances. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the authority on any of the agenda items? There being none, item 5 is a consent agenda. Staff is recommending items 6 through 11 for the consent agenda. Are there any items that any members would like to see pulled out? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to pull out item number 8. And if there's no objections, I'd make a motion to approve 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Charbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Okay, item 8 reads, approve economist.com electric rate study contract not to exceed $29,000. Economist.com is the firm that did the rate study. I believe it was in 2009. It was scheduled to be a 5-year projection, and we're at the end of that. And I guess this is a recommendation to review the information. I have David Roundtree down. David?
Be happy to answer any questions. I worked with Dan Jackson in the 2009 rate study. I've done several rate studies with Northeast Electric Co-op and had a lot done with their expertise. Their expertise in this field is very good. What I liked about them more than anything else was they gave options. They gave the council options of looking at different ways. And I will tell you that Grand River Dam Authority was faced with either putting scrubbers on their coal fire plants to meet the EPA's Clean Air Act, or shutting down one of their coal fire plants and going to a gas fired plant. And after a lot of working back and forth and talking to customers and the decision was made to put in what's called a combined cycle gas plant, which is a very efficient gas plant, and not put scrubbers on there. So long story short, their rates are going to go up probably as early as 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. Our ordinances are set to where we just don't pass that on. The only thing that we pass on from Grand River Dam Authority's rates are the PPA charge, the fuel cost charge. That's the only thing that we pass on. So it would be prudent to do a study to make sure that we have the margins necessary for the operations of the city with the electric utilities. It's my estimation. But I'd be happy to answer any technical questions.
I read through the information provided, and what we're, not just us, but most of the community, every community served by GRDA is facing with the increases. One of the things that I remembered from last time, and they included again in the description, was the ability for staff to go in and change certain variables in order to do some of our own predicting. And I bring that up because when the first time around when we hired them, I thought that was going to be a valuable tool for us and would maybe eliminate the need for us to have updates very frequently. I know this has been 5 years, that's not real frequent. In this past 5 years, has staff utilized any of those features? Do you know?
Well, the one thing that we did do is we've done a long-range plan, an electric long-range plan,
Okay.
a 15-year plan, and we have actually come out to find out there's not a lot of growth, of course, within the city, and that falls back in with the electric system. Without a lot of growth, there's not big numbers in new construction, but there's a lot of maintenance, preventive maintenance. It's like anything else. If you don't maintain your car, it'll fall apart on you, and that's the way the electric system is. But we have applied some of those factors. But if you remember right, the vote from the council was at that time was to set the 5-year plan in place, and that's it. It came along. Jill and all of them have looked at the different costs as we've gone forward. The issue is the budgeting. The one thing that we discussed and Dan's taken into consideration for this plan is they're also going to look at the city's, our own use. Remember, probably a percent, there is a percentage, of course, that we use. We have to pay that just like any customer does.
Right.
And of course, it's at wholesale rates, but still yet, there's efficiencies that we could look at.
Okay. So the 5-year plan, it's up. There were no recommendations beyond the 5 years, is what you're telling me, as far as what we should do with rates. It was anticipated that at this point we would be doing I hate to say a new study, but at least a review.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions? Neil, did you have any other?
No, I just wanted David to come up and explain to us and the people out there watching, give them kind of an idea what's going on. And
Every coal fire utility in the nation is doing basically the same thing. It is so expensive to put scrubbers on these coal fire plants that they're going to the new combined cycle gas plants. But I'm going to tell you, if your house is heated with gas, natural gas, your rates are also going to go up. And the reason that they are is because supply and demand. Everybody's building new plants now, and it's going to be expensive. I don't know. I'm not it's your crystal ball or mine.
Okay, so do we have a motion on item number 8 to approve economist.com electric rate study?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
And a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Thank you, David. Item 12, presentation regarding construction manager at risk for new city hall / police station. John Priest and Mark Mowdy. Well, you don't look like John.
I take that as a compliment. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Benny Crossland, President of Crossland Construction Company, and the city manager contacted us on Friday, asked us to come down and talk a little bit about construction management at risk. He asked us to talk a little bit about what a new facility might cost for a new city hall, and just talk about how we could help you with that process. So that's what we're here today to do. First, I wanted to talk about the construction management at risk process and things that are really advantages of it. And the first thing you see is better control over the budget. And the reason that happens is because we get involved with the design from the very early stages of the project. We have value engineering on a timely basis. That's because we're there with the architect. We sit down and we'll do a design charrette from the very beginning. We'll sit down and lock ourselves in a room for 2 days, 3 days, whatever it takes, and we'll talk about every system in your building and how it should be designed and what the costs are and where you want to put your money at. And then we talk about constructability. We talked about what's the easiest way to build it. What's the easiest place to set the crane and hang the trusses or whatever it may be on the project site. One of the really good things that construction management does is it puts the architect and the contractor on the same team from day one. There's no adversarial relationship. We're together. We're giving the best value to the owner that we can get. I talked about knowledge of the budget through the design phase. We have some parameters that you guys did just a study of how many square feet you might have in a new facility. And I'm not saying you wouldn't remodel the old, I'm just saying that based on the study that we received from Jeff, that we came with a budget today to kind of show you what facilities of similar ilk would be. We reduce the construction schedule because we're able to put out bid packages, like for instance the dirt work or the site work for a project, before all the plans are drawn. So we kind of gain on the construction schedule beforehand. Pre-construction, the pre-construction work gets done during the design time frame rather than in the hard bid process. The contractor gets it and then he's got to start his pre-construction phase to get up to speed. In this process, as you may have seen on the Miami Event Center, our team is all together from the very beginning. Greg Smith, who is our director of pre-construction, and Mark Mowdy, our project manager, who would be for this project, they are together in the pre-construction, so when there's a handoff to construction, it's already been done because Mark's been in all of those meetings leading up to the start of that job. And there's a transparent subcontractor bidding system. You get the advantage of seeing all the subcontractors' bids. We'll write packages for those subcontractors. We'll qualify them. We'll make sure that they have bonding ability. And then all those bids are open in the public for you to see. And then we take those bids and look at them, and we'll talk to those subcontractors about how you can get the best dollar value for the taxpayer. This is the project team. It's basically almost the same project team we had for the Miami Event Center. John Priest unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. Greg Smith, pre-construction director, he'd be the pre-construction director for a project like this. Mark Mowdy from the Miami area would be the project manager. Steve Hauser, he did the original conceptual estimating for the event center. These two guys are home office guys. They're on the site at least once a week. Our safety director and our field operation director making sure things are put in place at the same time. And you see Aaron Schnurbush. I don't know who would be the project manager because I don't know how fast you're willing to move and how the schedule would fall out, but Aaron would be a good one. He's been 18 years with Crossland Construction Company. He's over building St. Mary's Church right now, which is a beautiful $14 million church facility in Joplin. I'm going to pass it off to Greg, and Greg's going to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've looked at to kind of come up with the conceptual estimates.
Thanks, Benny. Like Benny said, we received some information last Friday, a GH2 study kind of based on some space requirements. And so we looked at our Model Logic cost database, which has every project we've ever built or bid in it. And we looked through about 200 jobs and we pulled 8 out of it that were very similar in size and what we think that this facility would need. So we've got a location, cost per square foot, and a size for each of those right there. And we pulled some office facilities, a police station, police and fire training, community center. So on the next page, what we did is we analyzed each one of these projects, the different pieces and parts of them. We added for inflation or even market location for each of those. And we arrived at a total average square foot cost of $179.61 a square foot. We understand that you might also want a storm shelter, so we've added 3,000 square foot storm shelter. We've added a little bit for a dried canopy, and then we've got contingency, 7% contingency that we added to that as well. And you know, early conceptual budgets, 7%, it's not too uncommon. As we know more about your job and as design progresses, we tighten that number up to a lot less than that. But when we take that times the 24,987 square feet, we get $5,158,880. And I'll point out too, this doesn't have any demolition of an existing facility within that number. This is strictly looking at a new construction type dollar figure.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to run through some of the projects we built. A few of them you might be familiar with, but this is, of course, the Ottawa County Courthouse. This is about a 30,000 square foot facility. We were the general contractor. It was a hard bid. We built it for about $5.4 million. This is the Benton County Juvenile Justice Center. You can kind of see the courtroom that they have there. You're looking at probably a meeting room and a courtroom together, but this has a lot of administration in that facility. This is the Cherokee County Jail, strictly a jail, but it has some administrative offices in it about a half mile from our office. This is the Collin County Juvenile Probation Center. This is in McKinney, Texas. And on that particular project, it's about 40,000 square feet, about $7.2 million. Very much a similar type facility, all single story. The next facility, this is the World Trade Center in Rogers, Arkansas, that building. This is a 100,000 foot shell that we built, and it's about $100 a square foot for the shell. Now we're going in, and as the tenants arrive, we're doing the tenant infill for each of the customers as they come in into this facility. This is Names and Number in Pittsburgh, Kansas. This is a really nice high-end looking building on the inside. Is 22,000 square feet, about roughly the size that you're talking about. It has a skylight in the center of the building, nice greeting area for customers and all the parking. This is the Moberly Professional Park in Bentonville, Arkansas. There's two buildings that are roughly the same size, one's 17,000, the other 16,000 square feet. This is a building that we're just finishing. This is in our Model Logics costs. This is Cactus Drilling in Oklahoma City. It has a large atrium in the front, beautiful rock work. It's a pretty high-end building. It's $187 a square foot. That's the building costs only. Doesn't have any of the soft costs like architectural fees or things of that nature. This is a building that we're building, just finished, for Schlumberger. It's 80,000 square foot office building in Midland, Texas. You can see, if you can go back just a second, Kelsey, you can see all the officers, multiple offices all throughout this thing. This building was designed and built in 1 year period at a time. You can see we got occupancy on June the 2nd, so we had to have that for them to move all their furniture in. This is the Sapulpa Schools Administration Building. This was a remodel. We totally gutted and remodeled the whole building. Could be similar to something that you do. This is their boardroom. We totally gutted this out. It's about $100 a square foot on the total remodel. We didn't do much to the shell of the building. This is a General Dynamics building in Carthage, Missouri. They take bombs and defuse them for the government, and this is about a 12,000 square foot office, about $2 million. This is a building probably the most like you would build. This is in the city of Pittsburgh. We built this in 2007-2008 time frame. This is about 24,000 square feet. It has a police department on this end of the building. In fact, these two sally port doors here are where they park police cars or impounded cars. There's a little bit of a detention center on the inside. This upper part of the building, the two-story part, is where they have all the city manager offices or HR offices. As you can see, this hallway downstairs, this is where the public pays their water bills and different buildings that the city has downstairs. They also have their building department in that building. And we built two of these buildings. The other was a fire station that was about a mile away. This building was about $5 million. And that was cost inflation for about 5 years.
Benny, does any of them, they have storm shelters in them?
None of these have storm shelters in them. And I'm going to get to a storm shelter and some experience we have with those.
Okay.
I wanted to show you this, the Fort Worth Police Station. Not built in the best place in Fort Worth. They told us if it was after 8 o'clock they wouldn't come get us. But pretty rough neighborhood. But this was actually where the police officers had their locker rooms. That each of these lockers here had its own gun case, and they each had an electrical plug-in in each of their lockers to plug their cell phones or whatever they needed to plug in to recharge. See some of the administrative building. Of course, it's got the big glass front on it, but it's a very, very nice facility. You talked about tornado shelters. We have a lot of experience with tornado shelters. This particular one is in Fort Smith, Arkansas. We added in our cost about $80 a square foot for a tornado shelter. I just guessed 3,000 feet. I don't know how many feet you're looking at, but I threw something in there for it. We did a lot of schools. We probably did 20 schools that have tornado shelters in them. We're currently at Webb City doing their brand new facility. Their gym facility has a concrete dome facility in it. We're also doing tornado shelters at 2 of the grade schools there in Webb City currently. This is a Donald W. Reynolds Community Center. This is a little different look. This is about a 40,000 foot facility, but they had a big meeting area in their particular building where they have public meetings. They use that facility for just about everything, but this is kind of look at their boardroom and conference rooms on the inside of their facility. I'm going to bring Mark Mowdy up. Mark's been with Crossland for 7 years. He's a project manager on the Miami Event Center, and let him talk about the construction management.
A couple of questions, Benny.
Sure.
That 25,000 feet, did that include the police department?
Yes,
in
sir.
There was G2H plans?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's 8,000 feet in the police department in that particular plan.
And in the 5,158,000, did that include or did not include storm shelter?
That did include the storm
okay,
shelter.
so it does include roughly $80 a foot for 3,000
We
square
put
foot
a
shelter.
$240,000 extra cost
Okay.
to harden that particular area of the building.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm going to let Mark talk about the Miami Event Center and some of the things we ran into in that project and some of the decisions that were made and how the CM project delivery system helped us. So Mark.
I know a lot of you guys, some I don't. I'm Mark Mowdy. I'm project manager with Crossland. I am fortunate enough to be the project manager on the Miami Event Center, and if you guys would move forward with this facility in Crossland, I'd also be part of that. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the challenges we've seen on the Miami Event Center and why CM was a good fit for that project and how it helped the process out. You know, that project early on, the MCFA reached out and got some renderings done and kind of some studies done of what the facility needed to be and had a good idea, handed out some pamphlets and whatnot to the public, you know, of kind of what the intent of the project was. Well, after design got started, we realized real quick that it wasn't going to fit. The soccer field is way wider than a football field, and the schematic drawings that the architect already had come up with were too large to fit in the space available. So we really had to shake some things up and look outside the box on how to come up with a solution. You know, one of the things we did is we flip-flopped where the suite levels were versus the press box level. We had to do a cantilevered structure to widen the top where the suites were, because the footprint of the building couldn't be wide because we were encumbering on the street. You know, some offsets of that were the coaches realized that they're dropping down 15 foot, and now they don't have a good visibility of the field. So, you know, things we came up with to change that was we had to go taller. We added a third story. You know, significantly into the project now, we decided we had to add a third story to get the coaches what they needed. And the way we did that is we looked into the bleachers. Up to that point, we had really been talking precast bleachers, which is a good, hard bleacher system, similar to what's already out there at NEO on the east side. And you know, we got to researching the aluminum's quite a bit cheaper. And we set up some meetings in the Tulsa area, and everybody went and toured the facilities in Tulsa, and everybody thought, you know, aluminum's great. It's a good material, it'll last a long time, and it's considerably cheaper, and that's the way we went. And that really helped get that third story. You know, when it was all said and done, overall we were under budget, but there were a few items that were over. So what we did is we did a value engineering process where we take a look at certain areas. We work with the subcontractors, like the plumbing, for instance. We'll look and see the price difference between American Standard toilets and maybe a Kohler, just swapping some name brands out. And after that process was over, we were able to save about $130,000 that went back into contingency that, you know, is used for furniture or whatever the owner desires at that point. So that's how the CM process can help, in having the contractor, the construction manager on site and being integrated with the architect up front. And you know, I think it'll be a successful project if you guys decide to move forward. So.
You know, I just went back today and kind of looked at the number of projects we did in Miami. We did 93 projects in Miami, Oklahoma. You can see some of the projects, NEO, J&M Farms, Miami Public Schools, the Walmart store. We worked on Sacred Heart Church. We've just worked on a lot of projects in Miami. So we know this community very well. It's been very good to us. We appreciate everything the city of Miami has did for us throughout the years. And we'd just like to answer any questions you might have about the project or this process, or anything you'd like to know about Crossland.
Well, first, as a member of the trust that's working on this stadium project, Neil and I serve on that trust, and early on, I think our city manager was the one that started talking about the construction manager at risk project, and then we got to talking to Crossland. And I can tell you, having been through in a private business and in the city, I've been through a few of these processes. Crossland has been outstanding to work for. But that aside, the construction manager at risk process has worked very well for that particular project. It has allowed us to save some money, stay under budget. We've still got a good amount of money in the contingency fund. I know Mark and everybody on their team has done a good job. But as far as a process, and you know, David can speak to whether or not there would be any hurdles. I think we found out with the stadium project that it's certainly a legal approach, and I say that only because we're all so used to the bid process, and that being but there are communities and entities all over Oklahoma using this process now, and it really is a cost-effective approach, and Crossland's been an outstanding company to work with on the project. So if we do decide to go this route, I would certainly recommend that we pursue that process and Crossland as the manager for that process. 5 million, one's kind of scary though, I gotta say. You know, we've looked at this, we've been looking at this for over a year now, and every time we look at new construction, we hear numbers like that, and then we say, well, let's go back and look at renovation, and then we get those numbers back, and as time goes on and we get better, or maybe I should say worse engineering reports, not better, but you know, that cost to remodel keeps climbing. And right now we're probably, I think, in the $3.5 million range or so, and we're not sure what demo costs would be. And you mentioned demo cost a few minutes ago, that was not included. Is there any way, Benny, to give us a ballpark sense of what that might be? We're not going to hold you to anything. We're just trying to get a round number.
You know, I would just guess, this is off the top of my head, about $200,000. Take it down and haul it away. whatever you were gonna, you know, might do it in phases. You might save the Civic Center. I know it's very sentimental. I
Right.
went to the Golden Globes there for years, and so I know it's very dear to the heart of Miami. But just off the top of my head, I'm thinking somewhere around those numbers. You know, one thing I might say, I did tour the facility yesterday and looked at your facility, just kind of tried to have a blank slate about it as we walked through. Multiple issues in the building. And as a contractor and a construction manager, as I walk through, my biggest worry is that you could spend a lot of money, not be any more efficient at all. And this building is not a very public-friendly building. The multiple levels of entry, you got 10 different roof levels that I counted. You have multiple problems with your ductwork and your heat and air systems that don't work. The event center, you know, you have air conditioning issues that you don't even rent it out during part of the summer because of there's not enough air conditioning for the facility. You got asbestos issues. So I guess just functionality is what I saw the most of when I got to the end of the day. So as a construction manager, that would be my worry, that I got done and I spent that much money and didn't end up with the right thing for the city to function for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
I noticed in the Pittsburgh facility, they were on 2 levels, so I'm assuming they just put in elevators, and they had the city administration on the 2nd floor. Is that correct? I remember that correctly.
They did, and the reason they did that, Rudy, is they had a specific site that had parking challenges, and in order to make the building work on that particular site, they were wanting all single level, which Jeff mentioned to me, but when they got to the site, it wouldn't accommodate the parking and that, so they built a center section of the building, a 2-story part of it.
So round numbers, 200,000 on demo, but that's a real round number. If we were wanting to tour the Pittsburgh Fire and Police facility, I'm sure that could be arranged.
Sure. Be happy to set that up with the city manager, give you a tour of the facility. It's a very, very nice facility.
And in my notes, Vinny, you said the police, the admin offices, and the utility billing office were all in there. Was there basically all the same functions that we have here?
Pretty much all the same functions. The one thing is their fire department was separate. I don't remember them having their emergency management there. It may have been in another facility, but almost all the city offices, the judicial center, just like you would have, the water billing, just like you would have, pretty much exactly the same.
So, we're kind of up against a timeline. Based on what the contractors have told staff, if we can get through a winter, we're going to be lucky without repairing the roof. And if we do get through, then next year it'll really be tough to repair.
Well, you have multiple buckets everywhere.
We do. What sort of construction timeline would you envision for a project like this? Let's say that we were going to suffer through this winter, and so effectively start something next spring, assuming
Next
that
spring,
those decisions were made by the voters. Go ahead.
A little bit of that is, if you took from now to spring to do all your planning and design and do the pre-construction side of this, I think when you got to the building, you'd be looking about an 8 or 9 month project.
So if we were able to start April 1, probably March 1, you could be through by year end.
And really, Rudy, if you had certain sections of the building, you could probably phase that move in where some departments could maybe move in quicker than others. If you needed to have a phased move in of the building. It's kind of hard to move everybody just like overnight, your all-time
Right.
new building, so it kind of has to be a little bit phased anyhow.
Gentlemen, what questions do you guys have?
The bid, dollar amount, does that include the furniture and all?
We did not put any furniture or fixtures in it. As I went through yesterday and looked at your offices, you could reuse a lot of the furniture that you have. I don't know that it would fit as well as, you know, more design furniture for the space.
Is it IT lines and
Yeah, all the IT would be in there. This included a server room in our budget. You have a emergency management server,
okay.
and then there's another server somewhere. I saw them in 2 different locations yesterday, didn't we, Mark?
Yes.
And so, yeah, we had a server room in this particular facility.
ADA compliant?
ADA
Mhm.
compliant. This was all single level. Multiple bathroom facilities throughout the building. Small locker rooms for the police officers. I understand they can't use their locker rooms now that they have, or at least, you know, shower and change clothes and that kind of stuff.
About savings, you know, based on new facility versus old facility you have, any kind of number savings you figure out what?
You know, we'd really have to look at the program of how you wanted to allocate the space in the existing building to see how that might work. But we could certainly do that, and that's one of the advantages of the pre-construction process is Greg and his team, they get together, and if you can show us a program, a layout of how you would use this building, we can compare that cost with the cost of a new building. You know,
So you're
side
talking
by
about
side.
utilities and stuff?
Utilities and so forth, yeah.
Are those set up on an energy management system, which the?
Yes, sir. In
Yep.
fact, probably the only thing that we had a real problem with on the Pittsburgh building was the energy management system that we had. It had a very proprietary control system that Train Energy had set up for the train units, and we had a hard time getting that in balance. And one of the other things that we had to work on in that particular building is that Sally Port, it didn't have, they used all that plenum in the attic for fresh air return, and we had to build a wall basically in that Sally Port to control that airspace. And we were getting enough outside air at a colder temperature that we couldn't keep it warm on the inside. So once we kind of got that worked out, we haven't had no problems since then.
Humidity issues too, so.
Neil?
I'm like you, I'd like to take a tour of a couple of these places, just to.
Okay.
Be happy to arrange those and set you up and just let you talk to the owners, see what they say.
Okay, Benny, thank you very much.
Thank you
We
guys,
appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark, wherever you are. Okay. I think that we need to have some conversations with Jeff when he's back feeling better and take a look at the construction costs, the remodel costs that we've got. And, probably on our meeting at the 22nd, try to narrow down some of the options.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Item 13, other new business, if any new business? Item 14, staff reports, written reports are included in your packet if available, and staff are present for questions. Item 16, trustee community announcements, any announcements? Item 17, future agenda planning. We've talked about our meeting on the 22nd. We want to try to narrow the range of options. If we're going to do something one way or the other, we've got to make a decision soon, whether it be a new roof and remodel or a new facility.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
speak to that, on our meeting the 22nd. Our original was 15th, that we decided that we're not gonna have one on the 15th, or,
I have not asked Jeff to cancel that as of yet. I want to keep that option open.
okay.
The 22nd is our third meeting of the month, which is typically our planning meeting. The 15th is our regularly scheduled meeting. And sometimes in July, with so many people out for vacation, we don't hold that particular meeting, but we're going to keep that option open for a little while. Okay, item 16 is adjournment. Excuse me, item 17.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna move right into the city council meeting for, the regular meeting for Tuesday, July 1st. Item 2 on that agenda is public input and unscheduled personal appearances. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address the council on any of the agenda items? There being none. Item 3, Mark, finally. I'm sorry. You had to wait so long. Recognition of 15-year service award for Mark Byfield. Chief?
Well, Mark, it's been, what, 15 years of dedicated service? I did tell him today, he was a little surprised. It didn't seem like it's been 15 years. And I said, let me tell you, the next 15 is going to go a lot quicker than the last 15.
He doesn't look old enough for it to have been 15 years.
It ain't the years, it's miles.
Yeah. He relates it to the ages of his children, I think. So we're very fortunate to have Mark within the police department, and he currently serves as one of our lead detectives. He has a wealth of information. His contributions to the department and to the community are really just priceless, and we appreciate his dedication. And his captain is Captain Anderson, who he works directly for, so I'd like to have the captain speak a couple of moments.
He didn't look old enough now. You should have seen him 15 years ago. He looked like he was about 12 when it started. And in fact, what was it? They called him grandbig, I believe. He was about that old, about that big. He was but we want to thank Mark. Mark's done an excellent job, and especially now with our manpower issues, we've had to pull some detectives, and he's only one of 2 general crime detectives, and they are carrying the brunt of the load, and we've asked an awful lot of them, and I just want to say thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
And Mark, he gets a check from the city, but I'm going to have to tell him it's in the mail because we don't have it today. So, but the check is in the mail.
Hey, it's all right. As long as it's there.
Can we get a picture for the paper?
Where do you want ours?
We'll go, yeah, just,
All right, thank you again, Mark. Congratulations.
No problem.
Okay, item number 4. Item number 4 is consent agenda. Staff is recommending items 5 through 16. Gentlemen, are there any items on the consent agenda that you would like to have pulled out? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve items 5 through 16.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit,
All right.
Schultz.
Aye. Item 17, approve ordinance establishing penalties for violation of codes requiring electrical, plumbing, and mechanical contractors to purchase permits before engaging in work within the city. I think this is an item that will entail some discussion tonight and some discussion at least one, if not more, meetings. Travis, you want to start us off?
Yes. Basically, what the issue is, in the past, about the last, I've been here 6 years, so 2 years ago, we basically changed the inspection fees. We raised them. Before that, basically, we relied on the contractor to just call when they were done with their work. The city didn't require, even though the code that we adopted required a permit. We relied on them to call when they were done. So we've changed that. per the IBC, International Plumbing Code, International Mechanical Code, Electric Code. They're required to come get a permit before they do any work. Some contractors still fail to do so. We do have multiple contractors that, not all, but some I catch just, driving back from other places. And as of now, it's just kind of a slap on the hand, come get a permit, And to me, it's not really fair to the ones that do follow the rules, and there are some that do follow the rules every time. There's some instances where you have to work with someone, but again, I get a lot of complaints from other contractors that will see someone in town, residents that will call. Maybe somebody's working across the street, and they will just be a concerned citizen. Did this person have a permit? So. And with this ordinance, I want to kind of open some eyes with it and make sure that everybody's doing what they should. And I'll be honest with you, when we raised the prices of the inspection fees, it went from I believe it was $24 to $99 overnight. And that made a lot of people want to do their own work instead of paying for the $99.
A lot of individuals,
Right.
not contractors, but individuals.
Individuals, because a contractor, they just, they put it in their bid. And so they're not really paying for it. They're getting paid for it. But some contractors, they tend to think that they don't need to pay that price either. But so my point is, I'm catching a lot of people that are doing things unpermitted, without a permit, and again, I tell my other contractors, my local guys who actually do follow the rules, I can't patrol the streets every day, 10 hours a day. There's other stuff that needs to be done within the office, so I kind of rely on them also to give me a heads up, and when I go up on a job, I basically just stop them, have them come get a permit, and it's done. With this, we're asking to kind of make the rule a little more stringent than it is, so they will get in the routine of, hey, I don't want to pay an extra $200 to $300 for a $99 permit.
Is that what you're trying to implement here? Is there be stiffer penalties
Yes.
for the ones that aren't doing it right?
Yes.
Specifically, just a moment, Travis, the draft ordinance that it appears has only been circulated at this point by email would provide for the same basic provision we've always had that says you're supposed to get a building permit, but that it adds 2 paragraphs. And the second paragraph says if you're caught and if you get a stop work order from the building inspector, then you can't get your permit without paying an additional penalty civil fee of at least 3 times the cost of the permit, or $200, whichever is greater. And that would be a civil slap on the wrist. There's a third paragraph that's added in the proposal that would authorize the city building inspector to make a referral by affidavit to the Miami Police Department, which could issue a citation in municipal court. And the way I drafted it, it wouldn't simply be a ticket. The individual would have to actually personally appear before Judge Chestnut and discuss the matter. Again, you may not want to go that route, but that's the way the proposal's been drafted. There's always room for discretion. I believe that in that context, if Travis, for example, were to talk it out with somebody, that's akin to a police officer saying, I'm not going to write you a ticket today, don't do it again, okay? If he doesn't issue a stop order. You may or may not want to allow that kind of discretion. That's also problematic, but that's common in the police environment, for example, and I'd suggest it's common in a lot of environments. Similarly, there's nothing that would require Travis to make a report to the PD. Travis earlier today described an incident to me in which he was physically threatened by a contractor. And to which I said, well, that's a great opportunity to step back and invite the police department to step by and visit. So that's part of why that kind of provision's in there. And thank you, but I simply wanted to give you an answer that a little more thoroughly described the initial proposal.
Travis, just to get a sense, I think there's a couple of issues. One is the permits and one is licensing.
Yes.
Of the, and I certainly don't want names, but just on a percentage basis of the local contractors, what percent of them would you say comply with the permit process almost always?
I would say it's 50-50.
Okay, so about half of them get permits and half of them don't.
I'm not saying they, well, I'm not saying they don't. I guess when they get caught, they do. But
maybe I should say in advance.
in advance, yes. It's
How many or how often do you encounter someone that is from outside of the state of Oklahoma and is not licensed in the state of Oklahoma?
not very much
Okay.
because in order to work in Oklahoma, in the city, obviously you got to have a Oklahoma State license, city registered license. But someone coming from Kansas, most of the time they do have their Oklahoma license. If they are if they are licensed, they know to call and say, hey, do we need a city license? You know, we are registered, we do have an Oklahoma State license. They know their stuff. And again, there's some that should know their stuff, but being that it's been a different way for so many years, it's hard to, go against the grain, I guess. Not necessarily go against the grain because it's the way it should be, but it's kind of hard to break old habits. But as far as unlicensed guys within the state, I don't run into that very often. It's usually just not a city license or they're not getting a permit.
A brief point follow-up. I would like the council to know, I'm sure some of you already know, that until a couple of years ago, cities could adopt pretty much whatever codes they wanted. But a couple of years ago, the state legislature mandated statewide, all cities, all counties adopt and follow the construction codes, the building codes that were approved by a state commission. And so that would have been part of the logic as to why a couple of years ago we were required to revisit our practices. We were told by state law to follow the IBC, the International Building Code, and it flat out says you got to get a permit before you do the work.
I think there's some engineering involved with that too. At one time, they wanted to see an engineering study, load studies on the home before you did an equipment change out. Just for clarification, this doesn't mean if a contractor comes to your house and fixes your air conditioner, replaces a contactor or whatever, he doesn't need a building permit for that.
Repair work does
Repair
not
work.
need a
What
permit.
would qualify under needing a building permit?
I knew this question would come up, so
What about a busted water line?
busted water. Okay, this is what the International Plumbing Code states.
Is that in the information you provide as an addendum to the ordinance or anything?
No.
No, sir.
Okay. We'd like that information sent to us.
The International Plumbing Code, for example, busted water line, says the stopping of leaks, what's exempt from work. The stopping of leaks in drains, water, soil, waste, or vent pipe provided. However, that if any trap, drainage pipe, water, soil, waste, or vent pipe becomes defective and it becomes necessary to remove and replace the same with new material, such work is considered new work and a permit shall be obtained. So, repair work on a water line would be probably, say, a clamp comes off and you just got to slip the pipe back on and replace the clamp. I mean, that's repair. If there's a tear in the line, you replace the line, a portion of it, that's considered new work and requires a permit.
So let me give you,
Go ahead.
I had a water heater replaced recently. Would that require a permit?
Yes.
I had just the trap in the bathroom sink replaced recently. Would that require a permit?
By code, yes, it
Okay.
does.
I mean, I tried to do it myself and I made it worse. So
Well,
I had somebody come and
I'll
do
be
it.
I'll be honest with you.
That's going to be my next question. Is the homeowner, am I allowed
Home-
to do it without a permit?
If you're a homeowner and that's your primary residence, you're allowed to do all of your work, but it still requires an inspection.
Okay.
It just saves you the contract fee.
Okay.
And I've been to classes. There's different arguments of what does require, what, you know, it's kind of left to interpretation. A wax ring in a toilet, some cities say no, some argue yes. You know, it's
I did replace that myself. And did a pretty
It's not
good
too
job,
hard,
I must
but-
say. My
Uh,
wife said I
Did
did.
you get the thick one?
Yes, I did, because I didn't want to have to do it again.
you know, and we've been getting a lot of people wanting adjustments due to water leaks. Just the other day, his flapper in his toilet, his tank was malfunctioning. That didn't require a permit because it's just a part.
Here's
There's
my
no plumbing
concern.
involved.
Here's my concern. Rudy has a busted water line on Friday night. He has to replace that line. You know, Monday's a holiday. Is he expected to wait 4 days to get that water
No.
line?
There's an emergency clause in the code book that
Okay.
it can be inspected the following business day. Because we run into that a lot with the line crew, especially electric. They can hook it up and they can come and get a permit for the following business day, that Monday.
These codes are very, very thorough, and they're spending literally 5 years sometimes, the statewide commission reviewing a specific code book before they'll approve the next revision, and they make exceptions to it so that in their judgment it reflects the attitudes of, for lack of a better term, the people of the state of Oklahoma.
And common sense.
Yes, sir.
So, do you think the $89.99, however much the fee is, I've heard several different numbers. Do you think that fee is too high?
Yes.
What do you think it should be? I understand it was set that way based on a study of time,
Right,
effort, etc. I'm just curious if there's an amount that you think would increase compliance.
I would say 40, 50 bucks, 60. I mean, I do know I was at a gas CEU class Saturday, and the inspector out of Norman said theirs are only $45, I believe. Tulsa is around the same, $50.
Jill, I'd like to you to send us some information on the amount of revenue that was generated by permit fees, the type that we're talking about here in the last 12 months or last fiscal year or whatever, just so we'll have a sense of what we're talking about.
I mean, it's just, you know, there's like simple inspections, say it's a gas test, a water test. I mean, you put air on it and you just watch that gauge and make sure it doesn't drop any pressure. And I gotta side with the resident. It's kind of for me just to come in and watch that gauge is $100 for 15 minutes.
Well, and I know even, it was kind of funny because when we made this change, we had a lot of contractors that supported the change even though the amount was higher because we were, it's a nickel for this and $2 for that, and they were, we were charging them 300 line items that added up to whatever.
Right.
And to just simplify it for us, we all thought it was a good approach. But I think we're all willing to revisit the number and see if it's right, but we'd like to be informed about what kind of revenue it is. The other question I had, Travis, was you're the only full-time inspector, correct?
Yes.
And how much of your time do you actually get, how much of your time is spent doing your regular job?
The inspections,
Yes.
it just varies on a weekly basis. Probably, I'm looking at Ronnie because me and him work hand in hand. I would say 70 to 75. I mean, we're not just inspections, but we're talking plan review, issuing the permits, general questions, going out and meeting contractors on site, meetings. Gives me a little time to handle the public that actually comes in and needs my attention.
Well, and
there
the
too.
complaints that we get from contractors, one may say, I don't mind paying the $95. It's the 3 trips I have to make to City Hall. Now, I realize that may be an outlier and it may not happen very often, but, we have a customer service duty also.
Right.
And
right.
so I
And
was just
that's-
trying to get a sense as whether you were able to perform your job or if you're getting pulled off to do things that may not be directly related to your job.
I'm able to perform my job as the building inspector more than I am at the other things I have to do on my plate. But I mean, and I try to the best of my ability, I try to give 100% to everybody that comes in. There's times when you plan for a day to get this done,
Things happen.
but as soon as you walk in, you'll be sitting on my desk at 5 o'clock because I didn't get around to get it done.
Do you
because
still
all
have
the
a cell
fires.
phone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there's I've heard the complaints of we can't get a hold of anyone. There's all ways to get a hold of us.
Okay.
There's certain contractors that say they never can, but on the other hand, there's certain contractors that always do. That to me, that's not an excuse.
Who besides you does the permits?
Everyone in the office.
Everyone in the
Uh-huh.
office?
I review them, and Chuck or Chris, they do the floodplain determination because we have to have per FEMA. We have to have a floodplain determination with every permit, whether it's in or not. And once that's finished, I get their blessing on that. I make sure if it's electrical, it's usually straightforward. Electrical, plumbing, mechanical, it's straightforward. If it's building, I check setbacks, zonings, things, all that stuff, plans. So, and then I'm getting everybody in the loop of being able to do that, to issue the permits.
Jill, can we easily post the proposed ordinance on the website?
We already have a link to our, you mean just out separate, out,
Just
we have a link
because
to
I'd like to ask Melinda to put something in the paper about the proposed ordinance and an easy way for people to access it. I was expecting a couple of contractors to be here tonight. I guess the level of interest wasn't quite as high as I thought. But before we consider the item again next time, I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to review it, and hopefully 10 of them show up and give their opinion. If they don't, then they're kind of leaving themselves exposed. In the meantime, I know everybody, and Joe, I'm sorry. Do you have any questions for Travis before we move on, or Doug? Did you have any others?
I think it's covered them all.
Okay. Did you have anything you want to add, Travis? We're obviously going to give this some thought, and we're all going to try to go to the
Yep.
website and look at the link ourselves and educate ourselves a little better.
I think we've covered exactly what we need on the actual permits.
Okay.
Again, on the fees, my personal opinion, $199 is a little high. I think the actual building permit should be flipped. That should be raised instead of the actual inspection fees. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
A building permit is for residential is $24 up to $10,000. A commercial is $29 up to $10,000. Just based on other contractors, say from Tulsa or anywhere like that, I mean, they're used to paying $300-400 for an actual building permit to build a new building or just anything as far as that requires the building aspect. And I understand somebody may build a porch, or something, a patio, and $300, $400 for that is a little stiff. But when we get into the big projects, like Hopkins is building a very large warehouse right now, and it's a $2 million project, which is it's a $2,000 permit, but based on that, the $25 for $10,000, it's a little shallow, I guess. Is what I want to say.
Well,
Not enough.
go ahead, Joe.
Not enough. is what
Not
you're saying.
enough. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's again, I'm not here to try to gouge the price. It's just I think it could be switched as far as, okay, I got to come out and look at a water line. I got to come out and look at the depth of a ditch. It's measure it 18 inches, done.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, we need to cover our costs.
Right,
If there's a
right.
way to adjust so that the work better matches the fee, then we're certainly open to that. David, did you have something you want to add?
Briefly, Mayor, on this cost component, I happen to know a contractor that doesn't build a lot of residential structures anymore, but used to. And I think, and Travis, correct me, please, if I'm wrong, but I think the permit fees on a new structure like that alone are about $1,500 for inspections. I mean,
Everything, the building permits, inspections, if you're building from the ground up, I mean, yeah, you're looking at $1,200 to $1,500.
and that was a big shock.
Yeah.
Because that kind of money actually starts eating into your profit. I know we say people pass that along, well, to a point.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you're building from the ground up, you're looking at 2 or 3 inspections per trade, counting the building.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
So it's not just $24 for. Right.
No, it's
Dave, this may be a question for you, and Travis, you probably answered. What's your remedy if you go out there and you know there's a blatant buy there that didn't get a permit? What's your remedy to that?
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Without this,
Right.
stop, come get a permit.
That's the only remedy you have.
Yeah.
You can issue a cease and desist work order.
I can issue a stop order, yes.
And if that wasn't obeyed, I'd have to go to district court and get an injunction. And I really couldn't do that on my own, without asking you if you wanted to call a special meeting or something along those lines. So
And with this, I just want to be able to walk up and say, hey, come get a permit. It's going to cost you triple now instead of.
So they're just looking at it as a slap on the hand. If I get caught, no big deal.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got an HVAC guy. He can come change out a unit in the morning, and I'd never see him.
Would you be the one issuing the citation for violation of?
For the 300,
Yes.
the first offense, the $300, or the 200, or 3 times the cost, I would be the one issuing the stop work order to make them come in, and then we would obviously charge them the extra $200 or whatever.
If there was a request that a police officer issue a citation, then the way it's drafted, then yes, the building inspector, who would be the person with the knowledge, would be asked to draft a statement, forward it to the police department. And because only a police officer can issue a citation for municipal court by state law.
I would have the contractors we have all the contractors' information. I would have their information, and I'm assuming, David, that would be mailed to them after I submitted my complaint to.
If the police department, if an officer issued a citation, it would be mailed to them in the form of a summons. If they failed to appear on that date, then a warrant would go out for their arrest.
Which, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it will get to that point. Once they pay triple the price of a $99 permit, I think it's going to stop the majority of it.
But you think majority of the people that quit getting them is due to the cost?
Yes.
If I understood you right.
Yes. You have a lot of people that aren't licensed also, that, Grandma Mary over here has a broken water line. She's going to get cousin whoever to fix it, and instead of paying the $100 to, and she may do that anyway, just not have a contractor, not pay the contractor fee, but it didn't help.
Well, we also have, if you have one contractor that's following the rules and factoring that fee into their cost, and one that isn't, and I don't know any better, I'm gonna pick the lowest price, and
Exactly, yeah.
so there's a competitive advantage to ignoring the rules too.
There's a long-term investment issue too for the community, and a lot of people don't think about this, and that is, I think that it's rational to say that if the home that somebody's about to purchase has had repairs, it would probably be better if those repairs had been permitted and more importantly, ultimately inspected.
And I get calls from insurance companies, you know, asking if this roof got a permit or, you know.
Okay, Travis, thank you for your time and all the information, and if y'all could make sure that gets posted, and Melinda, if you would be so kind as to, and the Joplin Globe also, include, information to give the contractors a chance to review it, and maybe we'll have a few here next week. Item 19, approve letter of commitment to provide in-kind services to the Modoc Tribe of Oklahoma for a street resurfacing project along portions of H Street Southeast. Jeff was listed by that, but I believe Tyler is...
Tyler was supposed to handle that one.
Okay, so do you know how urgent that issue is? I don't see Chuck here either.
I don't know much about it.
I don't either.
Let's go on and we'll come back to that, and maybe by the time we come back to it, somebody will be here. Item number 20, approve contract and resolution to waive $1,400 in fees and deposits for the July 7th through 11th 4-H day camp at the fairgrounds. Amanda, that has your name next to it.
Uh-oh.
Tag team.
I was here because I think she was going to be on vacation, so just in case.
Okay.
I am on vacation, but this is how I spend it. Just the 4-H day camp is something we've done for 15 plus years out at the fairgrounds. They basically just use the fair board office for doing activities. They'll actually be at the fairgrounds Tuesday through Friday of next week, if approved. Monday they'll be at the Christian church with our little clover buds, and the older kids will be out there. But they do activities related to 4-H project work. A lot of them are related to making projects that they can enter in the fair.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Schultz,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit.
Aye.
The next one does have your name next to it.
Yes. I don't know how much more you want or how much you got on each of the items. It's my understanding you're looking at approving a year-long events that the Fair Board and our Extension Office do at the fairgrounds. How much detail do you want?
Gentlemen, do you need any further explanation?
no.
Do we have a
Okay.
motion?
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
I will make a comment, though, that you are providing this kind of an in-kind service. It's a great thing that we can put as a partnership or whatever when we apply for grants, and you can do the same. And so if there's anything that we can do to help with those kind of things, don't be hesitant to call
That's
me.
good information.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Kathy.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Weston,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Item 22, approve ordinance requiring bond for demolitions of buildings 20,000 square feet or larger. David?
A couple of weeks ago, City Manager Jeff Bishop asked me to prepare an ordinance that would do just that would require some sort of performance bond. Jeff came up with you gotta draw a line somewhere. Jeff came up with the idea of applying it to buildings 20,000 square feet or larger. As you can tell from the proposed ordinance, I took a look at the state statutes and I took a look at the International Building Code as adapted by the state of Oklahoma, Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission. I tried to provide you with quite a bit of background information on what's already out there. And really with regard to the notion of requiring the posting of a bond, I relied upon a state statute that empowers municipalities to declare what shall constitute a nuisance and provide for the prevention, removal, and abatement of nuisances. And I included in the whereas clauses of the proposed ordinance a finding that the incomplete demolition of structures would constitute a nuisance, and it would, in my opinion, it would. I mean, both an attractive nuisance in terms of attracting children and other people who might get harmed. Also it qualifies a nuisance in other regards. Therefore, I drafted it with reference to the building code that already exists. I included some additional language for some minimum standards for what the IBC calls a site plan. Circulated those those ideas that I had for requirements. I really didn't receive much comment on them. I did get Dr. Glenda about them, Chuck also, and Travis. I didn't get any request for additions, deletions, or amendments to the standards that I proposed for minimum site plan. I think part of that's because 2A is pretty broad. It says that that we could require as part of a demo site plan, quote, as reasonably requested by the city, provide evidence of compliance with all federal, state, and local laws, statutes, ordinances, and regulations, close quote. That's a pretty broad standard. The rest is pretty commonsensical.
I read that and I stopped reading because I figured you had us all covered.
You're covered at that point. Whether you want to go with 20,000 feet, Glenda suggested informally to me 10,000 feet is a possible consideration. Of course, I pointed out that Jeff outranks Glenda, and Glenda said proposed 20,000 square feet.
Just a little background. This came up in response to the current demolition project that's taking place out at the Goodrich facility, and it's, we were just looking, not myself, but David and Jeff and Glenda were looking at the ordinances and talking with Chuck about them. We just felt like we needed something with a little more teeth in it. I think that the crew that's working out there, from the correspondence I've seen, they're doing a very thorough job. They're doing everything they've been asked to do and everything they promised to do. And of course, you have the state looking over their shoulder also to make sure they're complying with all the state and federal statutes. So we feel comfortable that that process is proceeding the way it should, and that when they're done, we're not going to be left with a big mess. They're not demoing the whole facility, but a significant part of it. But again, in working through that process, it became apparent that we might want to incorporate some of the state statutes and have something with a little more teeth in it as people contemplate potential demolitions, especially if you have a company coming in from the outside that's demoing it for salvage or whatever. We want to make sure that they don't just take all the steel that's worth a lot and leave a bunch of cement, dust, or bricks or anything. So that's why this has come up recently. It has nothing to do with any of the other things that Travis was talking about earlier. I mean, it's related, of course, but it's not motivated by those issues. And whether 20,000 or not is the right number, I don't know. There's several 20,000 square foot buildings in the community, not 30, but there's certainly several, and so it would come into play at some point. That's kind of the background on it. I think David's done a good job of drafting it. Any questions or thoughts or concerns?
It's a good idea.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve. No, oh, David, I noticed that there's an emergency clause afterwards.
Yes, there's an option, as I try to put in the proposed ordinances now, they're drafted in a form where you can, on the same document, either go with an emergency clause or not. Professionally, personally, I see no reason for an emergency clause. There's no effort or attempt to apply this retroactively, for example, to the BF Goodrich permits already entered. So I'm not aware.
So any new demolition
Yes, sir.
projects,
Yes.
whenever it goes into effect, then they would.
Yes, sir. One final thing before you entertain a motion, there is one typo that's been discovered on page 3 of 4, paragraph number 3, second to the last line. There's a sentence which ends with the word shall. That word is actually superfluous. It should be removed as an editing feature. And if you make a motion, please consider simply authorizing me to delete the word I just identified. It serves no purpose and it's bad grammar.
Jill, did you have a question or comment?
I knew that staff, Chuck Childs specifically, had a couple of questions about like who would be setting that assurance bond amount.
He would. Or the city manager. It's kind of difficult to simply, when you look at the standard, it's kind of difficult to say the bond should be in a specific amount tied to the square footage, because demolition of one, well, if you've seen one demolition project, you've seen one demolition project. There can be asbestos issues, there can be chemical contaminant issues, there can be different structural concerns. So ultimately, if you look at the language of the proposed ordinance, it asks our officials or staff to look at the estimated cost of what it would take to finish the job and to ensure the public's interest in the event the job was begun but not finished for example, in the way the mayor described earlier, okay? If the applicant didn't like Chuck's answer regarding the amount of a bond, he could appeal it to the city council, and the city council could fix the bond amount. You have to always provide people with an appeal mechanism for administrative determinations. I don't
Is there
describe
anything
that.
else, Jill, that you remember, Chuck? I saw the email, he had a question or two, I don't remember the.
Yeah,
And he
that's-
did come speak to me.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it gave me the indication that he was satisfied with the answers and didn't ask me to make any further changes. That was this morning.
okay, then, I would entertain a motion for approval, go ahead.
Here's his note. What is the bond amount and who determines it? Or does the bond cover all necessary work to complete the demolition?
The second. Right.
That was your answer to him.
Yes, sir.
And is that articulated clearly in this document,
I
or?
believe so.
Excuse me.
In fact, it says specifically in that paragraph number 3, Joe, you back up just a little bit, and this is the draft Chuck had. The applicant shall, prior to the issuance of the demolition permit, provide a surety bond issued by a good and sufficient surety authorized to do business within the state of Oklahoma, all in a form approved by the city attorney, in which bond names the city of Miami as a named insured party, in an amount and under such terms and conditions to ensure full completion of the site plan for demolition, as well as abatement of potential impacts to public health and safety and long-term environmental impacts, and to ensure general cleanup of the demolition site, period. There's room for negotiating that amount, but those are the standards.
So, I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance with the exception that the word shall will be stricken from the end of the sentence that David just read in paragraph 3.
Second.
Roll call?
Schultz,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Emergency clause, gentlemen, it's really not necessary.
I'm not asking for one, sir.
Okay. Item 24, other new business. Item 25, staff reports. Item 26, mayor and council community announcements. Any announcements? Happy 4th of July, everyone. And those of you that have been shooting off fireworks after 9
Yeah.
o'clock, you're in violation of the new law. Item 27, executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B4 for confidential communications with city attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim or action to wit, Blitz Liquidating Trust.
Mayor, I don't really need an executive session unless
Okay.
you want one. The action item following simply authorizes me through Associated Counsel to file an answer in that case. We did receive a summons. Other than that, nothing has changed whatsoever subsequent to my previous legal advice in the matter. But if you want an executive session.
No, I read through the defenses that they were claiming, and they sound like the standard things that were,
They
as
are.
far as a non-attorney would know.
They are, sir. They're pretty straightforward.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve item number 28.
and second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Item 29, future agenda planning. As I said earlier, we're still not certain if we're having a meeting on the 15th. We're keeping it on the schedule for now. We are having a meeting for sure on the 22nd, though, at which we'll be discussing some of the options on this facility and other options, as well as some other long-term planning things. Item number 30 is a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
And a second? Joe made the second? Roll call?
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Johnson.